Hi Mike and Dave, this is Sati Bhogal from Ontario, Canada, your new host and best friend on Motor Trend. Hope this video presentation reaches you in the best of health. I've been in the industry for over 35 years, working for Porsche and BMW back in England, and then moving on to Mercedes-Benz. While I was in England, I've also had chances to work for RSR Engineering and TWR, Walkinshaw Racing. Having done that, while I was there, I had my own business, and basically calling me a renter technician. And I worked for Porsche and BMW. When the technician was down, I rented myself out and filled the position of a technician that was absent. But then an opportunity arose while I was in England, where I was approached by a person saying that they need technicians in Toronto. So I was approached by a guy who came from Toronto, Porsche, and sponsored me, and I happened to come to Toronto in 2000, and we worked for Downtown Fine Cars in Ontario. So having worked there for over 3.5 years, I decided to move on further onto BMW. From BMW, I was presented again with an opportunity to work for Ferrari and Maserati with the same group that belonged to BMW, which is Maranello Group in Ontario. So proceeding with that, I also worked for other companies while I was working for Maranello, and trying to expand myself to other opportunities and not keep sort of holding your eggs in one basket, so to speak. Proceeded on to other opportunities. I also had chances to actually work in the Bahamas, where I normally do travel. Even now that I get opportunities, people calling me for diagnosing problems on their Porsches, BMWs, even as Land Rovers and Jaguars sometimes. Not all the time, but I do get opportunity to get to Bahamas. In the meantime, I'm back at home in Ontario, working my own projects, which I do get time to time, and I'm getting a lot of calls now through people inquiring about technical problems, engine problems, and so forth and so forth. Here I have is a 3.6 964 Carrera engine with a connecting rod bearing failure. We might say, why did it happen? Right? The reason it happened, it had an engine rebuild done somewhere else, another workshop. They put an additive in there to flush out the system, but failed to flush out the oil pipes and the oil cooler, which the additive remained in the pipes and the cooler. So consequently, it went through the engine again while the engine was finished, and the bearing failure started occurring. So we have a problem here. I'll take the crankcase apart. Here we go. And this is the one I prepared earlier. As you can see, with a cross, with a red cross that's marked X, that's where the actual connecting rod went, which is for number 4 on the opposite side. And it's got, basically, having checked the crankshaft thoroughly, it's got hairline cracks in there. I had this crank sent out to the machine shop, and the result came out that it's cracked. So I'm not going to put this crank back into service as it sits within the engine, and I don't want to take that risk. So I've been looking for the new crank. In the meantime, while I've been waiting for parts for this engine, I've been actually working on this engine, on the other parts of the engine, as to speak, on the camshaft. The camshafts have been reground, right, to the specifications. The cam carriers, where the cam actually houses internally here, right, as they have all been done, cleaned out of debris, because it's got spray bars internally, and they need to be cleaned out, so making sure there's no debris in the engine when the engine goes back together again. And the heads, which the houses the valves, intake and exhaust, had the guides done, had the valve stem steels done, and also installed new springs with the proper factory spec spring heights. So when these go back together, then when this is done, then these go back together. So in the meantime, while I'm waiting for parts from that, I've got another project on the go. It's the 996 engine. But before going there, I have this weighing scale here. Before this engine goes back together, all the connecting rods are actually weighed for making sure every connecting rod is at the same weight before it goes back. And this crankshaft will be balanced, right, with the front pulley and a complete clutch, as it's a manual transmission, to make sure that all the reciprocating forces are balanced and they're true when they're rotating, so there's no torsional forces, additional forces acting on it. which can actually affect the engine's performance and also could create a lot of vibration on the engine. So every engine that I do, they make sure that it reaches optimum performance, even better than when it left the factory, right? So I'm not saying that the factory doesn't do the job right, they do perfectly well. I love Porsches, I love BMWs and Mercedes. But then coming to this engine, this is a 996 engine, water-cooled, 3.4. The only problem on this engine was it had low compression on one cylinder. Stripped the engine down, found out that a couple of the piston rings were broken on number 4. So having diagnosed that problem, I have to actually get a new gasket set, new rings. Still waiting for parts. It's just a waiting game for parts, you know. So anyway, that ends the presentation. Hope you like the presentation. Please get back to me. My name is Sati Bhogal from Ontario, Canada, and have a wonderful Christmas. Ho, ho, ho. Take care.